to regular and closed session minutes.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion by Councilmember Aldridge, second by Councilmember Townsend. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Under announced delegations, Theodore Williams, presentation of open air and night market proposals. Come forward.
Hello. Thank you for this opportunity to present my ideas for Albemarle. This pamphlet has been passed around. This includes my exhibit at the Levine Museum in Charlotte, in acknowledgement for my contributions to the city of Charlotte. There's an attached article. I was told to make it one page, but this article pretty much contains the history and the contributions of the flea market to Charlotte. We had over 200 or so vendors that were coming to the flea market. There was folks from our community. There were a lot of vendors from different communities that come shopping, save money, takes care of their family. The market existed for over 5 years, almost 6 years, before the city decided to sell the property. I see Albemarle as a place needing a flea market. As many of the constructions are going on, many new properties are going up, much more families are coming to our area. It would be great to have a place to where, our locals can go somewhere, have a place to go hang out, have a place to go sell. It would be a good communal area for our city. The flea market has garnered people from different parts of Charlotte, as far as Raleigh. We had vendors come into our flea market. A lot of vendors are making, very good money, taking care of their family. Many of our vendors had employees. So we had roughly about 50 employees at our flea market, were being paid by vendors. So it provides additional, jobs. It's just really great for our community. I think Albemarle, as the city grows, being that we're the most populated for Stanley County, I think a flea market here would be totally ideal. I'm not sure how much time I already have to elaborate on everything. Is there a time limit or no? Okay. As the article shows, there is definitely a deficit to the community. We had over 200 plus vendors, families that were displaced, and they're still looking forward for me to find another place, another home for those vendors. A lot of vendors from Stanley County actually go to the Charlotte Flea Market, or used to go. They go to Salisbury, they go to Pineville. So to keep those vendors here and also attract other vendors to our area will provide a lot of income for the city, especially as far as gas, accommodations, their restaurants. They will see a significant boost in purchases, especially on the weekends. So I think it's definitely something great for us, as a lot of our money that's from Stanley County is actually going elsewhere to Mecklenburg County, to going elsewhere is being spent. I think it's best that we establish something here that would actually attract people to come to our area. As far as the night market goes, as far as my experience goes, many of our shoppers neglected to come out during the daytime, especially our older population, because of the heat or very cold during those time of days. And we found a lot of folks would come out much later, whether it be on Sunday or whatnot. They would come out much later when the temperatures are a little bit cooler. So it's a major part of the demographics of people that just don't have the time or are incapable of going. The younger generation as well, I think, also for our area especially, being that we're looking to expand and actually vitalize downtown, having a night market would be ideal to draw traffic, draw people from all around Stanley County, somewhere that they can hang out, not alcohol involved. It's good for young people, good for the older generation. I would like to include food trucks. I would like to include music of some sorts, especially our local bands. Just provide a nice area for commerce and also to help downtown grow. This type of market is not common in our area. I don't know of any in South Carolina or any states close to us. So it's definitely something new, but I really feel it's done in many other countries, and I kind of had experience in my country with this kind of market. So I know exactly kind of how it's run, and I would hope to provide that to Stanley County. Majority of people I see go to the bars, hang out at a Walmart parking lot. There's really not much for the younger generation to do in the evenings. I think it's ideal. We can block off a street. We have police presence. We have all the security measures that the city council requires. And I think it's something that we can really bring life to downtown. It would also support all the businesses that are around. Also, people can walk around and see existing businesses and anything else that the city would like to implement. I think it would just be a beautiful accommodation for the folks living in Stanley County, to have a place to go in the evenings where it's not alcohol or have to worry about crime, have to worry about, the dangers of most cities nowadays. Just a nice place they can go relax, sit down, have some vendors, have some food, and enjoy music. I think it would be a perfect addition to our city. When you guys get a chance to read the rest of that article, it really highlights the contribution of the market to East Charlotte for so many families. So I really feel instituting these two entities to Albemarle would significantly help out our community. As far as the future-wise go, having a place to where people can just go hang out, just some place to go as opposed to staying home and doing drugs and doing everything that they shouldn't be doing, just part of boredom, would be great for us to do this. If you guys have any questions, I'll be glad to answer. I've built this flea market from scratch. I've done Hippie Fest events. I've done rodeos. I've done many different things. Just a few weeks ago, I did a Holi Festival, the Indian traditional festival at Stanley County Fairground, and we had over 700-something people show up. So this is the kind of things I do. I'm very good at dealing with the community and helping to try and make things better for everyone. So I have a lot more events planned, and one.
Your night proposal, how many nights a week would you be planning to do this?
My plan is to do it once a month.
Once a month?
Right. If I can do it more, if the city doesn't have a problem us do it every Saturday night, I would love to. For now, if the city's fine with us doing every Saturday night, I would love to do it.
What kind of hours on Saturday night?
Look, somewhere about 7 to 10, 7 to 11, something like that. I figured try to push it a little bit later on, maybe 6 or 7. This allows, all the businesses that might be in the area that will more likely close already. So we won't be affecting much traffic in the area as possible. So maybe like 4 or 5 hours. If we can do earlier, I have no problem either. If 5 to 10, 5 to 11, or, I'm up to whatever you guys want to propose. We'll work within that reason. But ideally would be from like 6 to 11.
So we've obviously got two different concepts here that Mr. Williams has brought forward, and each one of them is going to have a little bit of a different approach. But we wanted to kind of present that to y'all tonight and get your feelings on it, and then we'll actually bring back a more firm plan on each one of those as well afterwards. We've got some concept plans I think you might have seen in there. What was that?
Council have questions for Mr. Williams?
I do.
On the open air market, will any structures at all be left on site during the weekday?
That's not what we had planned at this time. It would just be bring everything in,
So it's basically break everything down.
break everything
clear
down,
the
and get
site.
back out, right?
Typically, it's maybe Saturday night, you have a few things there, maybe tents, but at the end of the day, Sunday, everything will be cleared out. as if nothing ever happened.
So you'll be open Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, or just
Well,
Saturday?
we do Saturday and Sunday now as the market is building. If the demand is good enough, we can come back to the table and see if it's okay to do other days. But,
What kind of
primarily-
hour?
We're looking between 7 and 4 would be ideal.
And Saturday, would they tear everything down, or would stuff be left there till Sunday morning?
Because of the amount of things people typically have, it's a lot of work to actually take it down and put it back up Sunday. So usually we allow them to leave it, the tents and whatnot, Saturday night, and they come back and set up everything inside Sunday daytime. End of day Sunday, everything is taken.
Now, are you talking about the night market there or the open air market?
The open air market. So we're more likely to have some of the folks from the day market will transition over to night market and set back up on Sunday.
The night market right now, we're only proposing one night a week,
Right,
correct?
one night,
On
yes.
Saturday night, so that would
Correct.
be breakdown afterwards. That wouldn't be up still on Sunday.
So I have follow-up questions. Mr. Williams, where actually do you live right now?
I live on Monticello Drive at the intersection of 24, 27. And
Okay.
52.
Okay. And if I read correctly, just what you handed out and didn't read it in completeness.
No problem.
You first started at Eastland in
August,
2015, and they decided not to. They decided to take the lease or not to re-up the lease.
They're
Right.
redeveloping that site.
Right in 2022.
Right.
Just now,
Right.
literally just now. Do you currently have such an open air or a night market anywhere else?
No, ma'am.
Okay, but are you aware that there is one, something like this? I think this is like this, just south of Pineville. There's that open air market down there. Is there not
Right.
one down there?
There is, but it's not more so geared towards nighttime. It's more of a day market.
It's all the time, just during the day.
Right.
Is that
I
right?
think it's a pretty neat concept, honestly. I mean, I can't think of anything in Stanley County that's like that, at least not a
Right.
regular thing.
And so the open air market, just so know we're all on the same page, it would be on our place on Wiscasset. I mean, the Wiscasset,
The open air market for the daytime would
Right.
be, would be, what we looked at was, because what Mr. Williams needs is a big
Right.
open area.
right?
And it's, with parking nearby, it's really hard to find anything
Right.
like that in Albemarle. But the location up there is good. We are not using it currently. And it could be done with very minimal site improvements there. You could bring in Porta Johns. You can have everybody, these stalls here are 20 feet wide. They were designed so you could drive in a truck or a couple trucks and then have stuff in front. So all in all, this could actually take up a lot less room than what you see right here if they're smaller.
Just a point of reference, that which it looks to me on the right, that's A.L. Outer, is that right?
It is.
Okay.
Those would be, now the
Those are
city
12.
has
Right,
a handful of parking spaces right here.
right.
Mr. Williams has secured an
do have.
agreement to use this parking space right here. There are some trucks up there right now that would need to be moved around. But to use this space right here, and if this were to proceed, we would actually talk with Mr. Ladder about this as well. Neither one of those is currently used much for anything right now.
You'll have somebody clear the site with trash and debris at the end of the event
Yes.
each night.
How long a lease would you be?
That's something that we would
Negotiable.
probably, like to discuss with you guys and bring that back as a more of a
And
fully set up proposal.
the fact there's no water, sewer, any of that on site, that's not
I don't.
electric? Any of that?
We, my other flea market, we didn't have. The vendors provide electricity. The need for water is usually solely on food trucks, and they're required to carry the necessary water. So there's really nothing as far as electricity or water that the site has to provide.
Porta Johns.
Mr. Williams, currently, council has 4 proposals coming to them over the next few weeks for this site.
Okay.
So I'm sure council would not be willing to give you an answer tonight on the open air market.
Okay.
Let's talk a little bit about the night market and what council's thoughts are of that. Do you want him to bring a full proposal to us or not?
So go with us now to the place or the picture of where the
And again,
night
these are
market.
just kind of concepts to show you
Right,
guys
right,
how to
right.
fit in there. And what we had talked about is, this is about, I think, 40 to 50 Vendor stalls, they're about 10 by 10 tents that we've got in here with vehicles separate. Obviously, it's not real wide. You know, starting off, I think this would probably be good, but it's something that where the other side of Depot Street as well, you could have something there also. Not really much activity on either side of Main Street right there on Depot on Saturdays, especially Saturday nights. It's pretty much dead. So that's kind of, when we looked at it, we looked at some other streets and other events going on, other restaurants and stuff. There might be some conflict with that. This seemed to be a little bit probably easier to do. And it activates a kind of a dead area of downtown too.
So just follow up on that, to the right again, off-street vendor parking spaces?
Those are a local landowner, and
Right.
we need to talk to them about
Okay.
that too. Yeah.
So that would, just like you indicated on the other one, it was private, a private agreement,
Right.
and that would be the
Right,
same
yeah.
thing there.
Yeah, private agreement on that. Obviously, there is a lot of parking, but with the vendors, it would probably be good to try to get them close to their tents and everything there. So we will actually talk with the property owner there before putting together a proposal on that.
For point of reference, can you highlight where Market Station is? Which one is Market Station?
It's about down here.
Right?
This is the, yeah,
Where the little hand is.
Okay. All right, okay.
Yeah.
I say that's the Liberty Gardens Road, beside Liberty Gardens,
Yeah.
right at Smith Jewelry. Well, I'm dating myself.
Only caution that I would have is when we have special events at Market Station, you know, hopefully there can be some sort of coordination with Mr. Williams and,
The thing I think about this location here is that you close it off at Main Street right there. We'd obviously want to coordinate anything else going on, but if you get the what's the car show?
yeah.
The
Pin-ups.
pinups and pu-
Pin-ups and pumps or something.
yeah.
But, yeah, if
Yeah.
that's going on at the same time, I
Yeah.
mean, takes
Good
some
activity.
coordination, but there's no
Yeah,
reason
that's
that you
right.
couldn't have that going on Main
Right.
Street and then this going on Depot Street over
Well,
here.
and usually that one doesn't start, they, right there at First Street, where
Right.
they usually, so
First to- yeah,
Up to the
first
square.
second there,
that,
yeah.
that's right, so
Yeah.
it usually doesn't go down that far.
Yeah.
To have that problem.
Right.
Mr. Williams, a couple of questions. First of all, is there just a charge that vendors have to pay to set up shop in the open air market? Is that kind of how that works?
Yes, sir. In Charlotte, it was 15 per day. Typically, the flea markets are usually 10 by 10 for like $10. I typically try to double the space because 10 by 10 is really just, you put a tent and a few items. And it's really not suitable for, you know, folks who are really trying to build a business.
Okay.
So I try to double the space, but not necessarily double the price.
Okay.
So it just makes it easy for, you know, these guys to actually, you know, earn a living as opposed to just a system that just kind of takes money.
Sure.
So
And
you want to
second,
do 10 by 20?
Usually 18 by 18 to 20 by 20.
just to follow up also to that question, what was the, you know, I was reading through the packet, I may have been here and I may have overlooked it, but what was do you know the reason why the city of Charlotte abruptly stopped the agreement at Eastland Mall?
It started about a year and a half before the closure, the official closure. There was a talk about Mr. Teppers actually purchasing the property to set up Major League Soccer. There's a lot of disagreements between city council and everybody else trying to figure out when this project would start. Of course, COVID got in between and really complicated things some more, which pushed back their project as far as I know. So they gave us extensions, like basically 3 months, 3 months, 3 months, 3 months extension, and until they got to this point now that they just couldn't give us any more time. And basically just the property management department for the city said that I couldn't be there. So the owner of the market couldn't be there and allowed the people to assemble still without officially closing the market. So it just kind of snowballed into everything else you see in the document.
I believe they have an approved plan to redevelop that site.
Okay.
I don't know when that's going to start, but that's really, you know, they've been working on that for a few years, so he was able to stay there and kind of ride it out until they got something a little more finalized.
And
Thank you.
unrelated to this, but you mentioned when you were speaking about having a festival here locally that brought in about 700 people a
Right.
few weeks ago.
Right.
That's amazing, and we didn't know nothing about it, to bring 700 people
Never even heard
into
about it.
town and
Yeah.
keep it under the radar.
Well,
How did you market it?
I use mainly Facebook, Facebook and flyers. I spoke to a lot of the businesses around here. So I actually did it, the first one last year, just to try to make the name a little more, knowing a little more or whatnot. So we had a fair amount of turnout, but it's pretty cold. So this year, we really spent the money to try and get the word out, and the Indian community was very, very receptive, and they asked for me to do Diwali, which is like the festival of lights. Holi Fest is a festival of colors. It's at the beginning of spring, is where you go and there's a lot of different color powder, and we throw it on each other. So now they're asking me to do other festivals. I have friends that actually do the Caribbean Festival in Charlotte, the Caribbean Carnival. So I'm actually looking to bring those things here as well. I'm the first one to have done the Hippie Festival in Charlotte, which was the first for our area in 2016. We had over 10,000 people show up for the Hippie Festival. I've done the LGBT festivals. I've done many, many different things, car shows, everything. Just kind of what I do for a living.
Did you say hippie festival?
Yeah.
You don't know what that is. You're too young,
Yeah.
Bill.
We'll explain that to you
or-
later.
That's right.
Google Hippie Festival Charlotte 2016. You see the entire Easter Mall, all the streets around were totally blocked. At end of the Monday after, I had to go sit and speak in front of the lieutenants and everybody else because we just didn't expect that kind of volume, that kind of turnout. And we had like 10 officers, but it actually required like almost 30. But people really enjoyed it, and this is kind of my passion for providing entertainment and also help people make a living.
One last question. On Islam Mall property, you hired off-duty security.
So I'll provide insurance, which of course the city will be endorsed on it. We take it to porta potties, everything required for the state. I've had to deal with the health department, so I pretty much know every facet, every problem that flea markets will face.
I think Mr. Williams is, with his experience, is a great resource for the city. And the great thing about this is that I know that a lot of staff is already kind of overwhelmed trying to put on all of the festivals and everything that we have, all the events downtown. And Mr. Williams has already got experience with it. So if we provide him a place to do it, I think we can bring some more activity into downtown. And without there being another night market, at least in the county, not in the region, I think it'd be a big attractor for the city.
Council, how you wish to proceed?
I think since, as the mayor mentioned, we do have some other options that are going to be presented to us with regards to the open air at Wiscasset, but I think I'd like for us to have a proposal on the night market.
So staff, were you wanting to come back with some sort of conditions, Kevin? Or
Yeah, we were going to come back with a proposal on both. If you're saying you just want us to come back on this one, and we can do that.
You can bring a proposal
That's
on
right,
both,
right.
but
Well, it'll
understanding
be
that
more
we may not
timely-
make
it'll
a
be more timely
decision
at that
right away.
point. Right, exactly, because you'll have heard some
Right.
some other proposals then. Okay.
Thank you.
Agreeable with that?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you
Thank
for
you
your
very much.
interest.
One final note. I did put that picture, the first.
There's several extra of these if you want to
Right.
wrap them.
And the significance is that the Living Museum, you guys may not know of it, it's actually a living museum in Charlotte. And I feel very accomplished to have been selected to be there. I work very hard to do things for my community. I work extremely hard, and this is my passion. So you guys have a picture that shows my dedication to my work.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
These are some
sir.
extras to take
Thank you.
those with you.
Yeah.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'm glad Kevin knows how to get in touch with you because you could be an asset to some other things.
Number 4, administrative reports. Consider projects for submission for federal funding. Mr. Parrish, you want to introduce?
Sure. So as we all know, there's a great deal of new and unique federal funding opportunities, and trying to match those up with projects we have where we can. And what you're going to hear tonight is obviously from Adam Kuiker from LKC. LKC reviews our water systems. We work with them for our plants and other infrastructure, and they've got some recommendations, or at least some proposals that we've worked with staff on to present to City Council for your comments and discussion, and potentially move forward with bond submission. So, Adam?
Thank you, Mr. Ferris, Mayor Michael, and members of council. Thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. As Mr. Ferris said, there's a significant amount of funding available, and applications are due May the 2nd. We've been working with your manager and your staff about projects that might make good applications, and what we are here to do tonight is talk to you about. We have 3 capital projects for you to consider the applications for, and 2 planning grants that are also could have some value to you. So I wanted to go through those briefly, Mayor, answer any questions you might have or your council might have, and then if you are inclined to approve these resolutions to submit for funding, talk about what that means and the schedule and what the next steps might be. So just a quick rundown, and I do feel like it's important to say, because this is a common misconception, the federal infrastructure bill that was passed in the fall, this is not that. Okay, so the funds that we're talking about now are totally different. The federal infrastructure bill that was passed in October or early November, those funds have not made their way for application yet. We don't expect those really until this time next year for those to be eligible. So what we are talking about here are 2 different programs. There's your normal drinking water and clean water state revolving funds, which you and your constituents and your staff have a high level of familiarity with. Several projects over the last 4 or 5 years we've completed together have been funded through state revolving funds. On top of that, the American Rescue Plan Act from a little over a year ago, just like each city and county received an allocation of funding from the federal government, the state also received a large amount of funds through the ARPA, American Rescue Plan, ARPA, Act. 1.7 billion, or excuse me, the state received significantly more than that. The state legislature, when they passed the budget last fall, allocated 1.69 billion for water and sewer infrastructure projects. Now, a large percentage of that were direct appropriations, and then the balance they're accepting applications for right now. And that's what we're talking about on May 2nd. The bottom of the screen there is actually important, and we'll talk about the quality of these applications and the projects in a minute. But what the state legislature did when they took the 1.69 billion and they took a lot of it and gave it directly to certain units of government for specific projects. The balance they are accepting applications for. And applicants fall in one of 3 categories. And it all depends on your level of distressment, which is a function of objective demographics and debt loads and population changes. And but you have the most distressed category, and the largest amount of funds are available for their what they're called distressed utility systems. And then there's what they call at risk, which is if you're on the border of being distressed. And then there's everybody else. And fortunately or unfortunately, you fall into the everybody else category. So what that means, and we'll talk about this in a minute, is you're competing for a smaller amount of funds, and you're probably competing against more people. So we'll talk about what that means in a minute. We have worked with your staff and have identified 3 capital projects that we think are quality applications. I'm going to go over each one of these in just a little bit of detail. And these are probably projects or maybe all projects that you have seen or heard of before. And then the bottom of your screen here is, I would imagine, a new topic to you. There are funds available for planning documents, and the planning documents are 100% grant programs, so you can hire a consultant to produce comprehensive planning documents that have not only a high value to your staff and you as you plan, as your system changes, they also allow you to check a box on the application that gets you a whole bunch of more points the next time you go through this. We'll talk about this in more detail. So I'm going to touch on the 3 projects, and I have this kind of theme going, what is it, what's the problem, and then what is the actual solution. One of the projects that you and your staff and I have recommended is the water line that goes from Baden Lake to the Highway 52 water plant. We've talked about this before in passing. The line that you're using now was constructed in 1947. What is the problem or the risk? The age and the condition of the existing line makes it a higher risk of failure. There have been, I guess, Dan, it was probably a month and a half ago, there was a decent break in that line that your staff had to work overnight to fix over the course of a couple of days. It is the only water supply for your Highway 52 water plant, which supplies most of the city. And then the last bullet there, this may be a new topic, but the diameter of that line actually is capacity limiting. So while you have a 12 million gallon a day water plant, you actually cannot get 12 million gallons from Baden Lake to that water plant. And you especially can't do it under your peak power requirements that you manage with Duke right now. That's a different topic, but just a little a layer to it. So the solution is fairly straightforward. Aside from the dollar amount, it's about 8 miles of new large diameter pipe. And I have draft by the budget, $22 million, because we're still gathering some budgets from other suppliers and vendors. So that if you just approve the application, don't be surprised if that $22 million moves a little bit, but that gives you a good order of magnitude.
What do we currently have there? That 8 miles, the current, what
It's a
size?
20. It's a 24.
Okay.
It is, and that's a really good question. I'll give you some more detail. It's a cast iron 24-inch line, and
From
a couple-
1947.
From 1947. So it's a very thick wall, which means it's the inside diameter is actually smaller than the normal industry standards. When we were working on the Old Whitney rehab project, this goes back about 9 years ago, and we ran the hydraulics for that design, it's very clear to us that when they built that pipeline, the engineering firm or whoever built it never intended to transmit more than about 8 million gallons a day through that pipe. The hydraulics just don't support anything more than that. So we've known that for a while, and we've talked with your staff about it. It doesn't cause you significant concern right now. Your water plant usage versus the available capacity is still manageable. Or well within side manageable, but it's something to be aware of that as you move forward, that you don't, while you have a 12 million gallon a day plant sitting there, you can't actually get 12 to it. Is that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
We don't need to wait until we need it.
That'd be advisable to not do, correct. Okay, the next project, this again probably has come up before, the sludge handling at your Highway 52 water plant. So right now, the entire waste stream from the Highway 52 plant, so that's everything that you take out of the water from the lake before it becomes drinking water, it makes its way into your sanitary sewer system. And maybe decades ago before regulations changed, that was a fine solution. Now it's causing fairly regular and sometimes severe operational challenges at your sewer plant. And there have been recent either close to non-compliant or non-compliant events that can be loosely tied to this water plant waste stream coming down the pipe. And it's odd, we talk about the water plant, the wastewater plant, and the high flow events and the challenges that has, well, when you have really low flow days, like up until today when it rained, the last couple of weeks has been so dry, whenever the water plant waste stream becomes a reasonable percentage of the flow going down the pipe, that's when it causes you problems. So you kind of have both edges of the sword there. You have a low flow issue, and then you have your high flow issues. So the solution, again, is not overly complex. There would be sludge handling, sludge dewatering facility, equipment, building, all the accessories constructed at Highway 52, at the Highway 52 water plant, sorry. Again, about $5 million. Some of you, this has been several years ago, we conducted a study, and Mr. Ferris, you probably remember, there was a small grant the city received to conduct a study on managing sludge at Tuckertown or Jack Neal and Highway 52. And so a lot of the scope of that, although the prices have been updated, the scope of that was developed back in 2015. And then the last one, the last capital project, this might be new to you, but to give you a background, and again, Mr. Henson and Mr. Worrell, we've worked together on this. Coming out of the Highway 52 plant, you have two primary pipelines. One's a 24-inch that goes down Mountain Creek Road, and the other's a 20-inch, and both of them make their way into the heart of your distribution system. The 20-inch pipe is installed in one of the travel lanes. I think it's the northbound travel lane of Highway 52, and I believe it's actually turned off right now, but it leaks regularly, and when it does leak to where it has to be repaired, because it's in the travel lane, it becomes not only a timely and lengthy, but also a very expensive repair because you have to build the road back to DOT's standards. So the solution is a separate transmission line. We think, we're working with Mr. Henson and Mr. Worrell, we think the best route is to get it off of Highway 52 and come a little kind of western, come down, is it Snuggs Park Road, I think, is the route that we have identified preliminarily. And again, about $4.5 million. Any
So
questions about
just
it? Yes, ma'am.
Point of clarification, the location of this one says near the hospital.
Yes.
That's Second Street. We also have a Second Avenue in Albemarle,
Oh,
but that's not anywhere close there.
forgive
so
me.
That's Second Street. Question I would have is, and again, this is ignorant here. You are the expert, but inquiring minds want to know.
Sure.
Why 20 versus 24? Because in everything,
Yeah.
I mean, over the years when I've heard, it's always we need to have larger.
Yeah. Well, it's a good question, and we have not studied the hydraulics in detail
Gotcha.
to be able to say with certainty that another 20-inch pipe is the right answer. So we would certainly want to vet that if this project was funded and if this became something that started to gain momentum, we would certainly vet that early on. And that's probably the best answer, frankly. I could go in a little bit more of the hydraulics, but it would just be speculation. We haven't studied it in that high level of detail.
What would that do to the $4.5 million?
Not much.
Okay, okay.
25% maybe.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Adam, several years ago, this was under consideration. And the proposal at that time was to go down Old Salisbury all the way down to either come across Snuggs there or go on down and come in at 52
Yes.
in Salisbury. Why are we changing now to Snuggs Park Road, but especially as hilly as that is, up and down, versus Old Salisbury that'd be pretty flat?
And Mayor, it's a good question, and believe it or not, this was many moons ago, and actually under previous employment, I've had a little exposure to that Salisbury Avenue line. I'm not saying with any certainty that Snuggs Park is the right route, and you're right, it does have some up and down to it. There also might be some right-of-way concerns. Is there a deeded right-of-way? How wide is it? I do remember, and Mr. Henson and I have talked about it, Salisbury Avenue, especially as it gets south, is very busy with existing utilities. There's very little right-of-way. A lot of the houses are close, and the power poles are close behind the curb. So that has its own challenges also. But we would want to investigate that also.
I would think if you got down Old Salisbury to Snuggs and come across,
You could do that too.
that would be more feasible than coming down Snuggs Park.
Okay.
But you need to look at that.
We will. Very good question.
That proposal, it's been a little while, Mayor. And that may have also been to extend the line coming that direction from Tuckertown.
It is. You tie into the
So
Tucker
it wasn't,
Town at
it
Snuggs.
wasn't, this is cut, well, yeah. I might be clouding two issues, but, yeah, that was extending back, starting up at Bethany Road, I think. at
Are
that
you
time.
tying into 52 on Bethany, or are you tying in where the Tuckertown deal
yeah.
comes across to 52?
Yeah, we do not think that, and I should say, these funding applications have been moving very fast. So I am guilty of have not studied this as much as we would usually have studied the exact and have these very precise answers for these types of questions before presenting this to you. So my apologies for that. In discussions with your staff and the way we understand how the Jack Neal interaction operates, I don't think you need to get all the way to 52. I think we can connect to the existing 24-inch pipe on Bethany. The line that comes from Jack Neal doesn't come down 52. It comes down, I don't know the road name, but it turns on Bethany and crosses 52 and hits the Highway 52 yard that way.
So if we brought it down and tied back in at Snugs and First, we would have redundant supply from Jack Neal or from 52.
That is correct, yes. And the water that comes, when you bring water from Jack Neal to here, it goes through the yard at Highway 52, but it actually doesn't go into the plant. It just passes through, and your valving and controls and measuring is there, but there's no exchange of water. It doesn't go into the clear well and then pumped out. That doesn't happen. So we think we can intercept it and avoid managing, dealing, crossing Highway 52 at Bethany. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions about? So,
Not at this
yes.
time.
So the last subject, and this is probably new, there's been, in the last 3 or 4 years, there's been a big push with the Department of Environmental Quality to encourage communities to develop asset inventory and assessments. And another way to say that is an asset management plan, which is probably a term that you use for other infrastructure or assets you own. It is a 100% grant program. It's a planning document. So these are not large grant amounts. And the intention is you would do two things, just like the name says. You would inventory. So it's a detailed mapping document. Now, you have maps of your utilities now, but they're not overly accurate, right? You wouldn't want to rely on them too much, especially in the middle of the night if you had to dig down and find something. Functionality. So which way does the water flow? Which way does the sewer flow? What does this pump station do? And then the team that would do this would model everything to provide detailed analysis to your staff about exactly what's going on at any given time with your assets. And then there's an assessment piece. What's the age, what's the condition, and what's the replacement cost, and when does it need to be replaced? These are very robust and comprehensive documents. They're really intended for twofold. It's intended to be a functional and living document that your staff can operate. All of these now are produced in digital format, so there's, I can't do it myself, but our staff can. All of these digital files, mapping files, modeling files are available on your phone, so you have access to it through an iPad, through your phone. So if you had a water break in the middle of the night, you actually would be able to pull your phone up. It would know where you were. You would be able to see the pipe, click on it. It would tell you everything you need to know about that pipe, including which valves to turn off to isolate that pipe, right? So this becomes something that's functional. I'll let Dan chime in, please.
I have to say, in January, we had an issue here in the city where we were having trouble finding the proper valve to shut off to isolate the system. This is just one example of what asset management software or doing the asset management programs will do for us. It helps you, it's risk assessment, what's keeping you up at night. As he had started talking about, what's the effect, how big's the effect, what's the potential of it, and pretty soon you're starting to build in your midterm budgetary items that you need to be planning for. It's a wonderful tool for all departments, but when the state's coming through and having water and wastewater putting money towards it, and then you're allowed to get points on if you're going for grants or you're going for other things, and it says you have an asset management system, they realize just how important this is to us. And to have the opportunity to do this through a grant is a wonderful, we could do it, but I can't tell you how much time it would involve for internally. Right. And we wouldn't get it. It would not be as comprehensive. So I've went through these before in past jobs, and it's a great opportunity. as far as the first three, you know,
Slide over to the mic if you don't
okay,
mind.
sorry. As far as the first three, you know, Old Whitney, and then down 52, those are your main, that's your main source of the plant. What I want to emphasize about the sludge handling is everything we're putting into that is also doubly affecting, because then at the wastewater plant, we're gaining that much capacity. So it's money twofold. I just wanted to give a little information on these.
No, that was great, Dan. The asset inventory and assessments are powerful. The mapping component to it, the intention is to develop survey grade maps of your valves, pipes, manholes, everything, which means there's a digital footprint of where a valve is, and that digital footprint can then be transferred to a cell phone. So if you were to pull up Google Earth, you would be able to overlay all of your infrastructure, and then you would see where you are, so you know if you're close to the valve or close to the T. It really helps to narrow things down, as opposed to your staff has very high quality, detailed paper copies of maps that are based on both as-built drawings and then just historical experience and understanding of where things are. But in your worst case scenario, in the middle of the night in the freezing cold, they can unravel really quickly when you're trying to dig down and find something. And it always helps. These are 100% grant programs, and usually the expected request for a utility of your size would be in the $150,000 to $200,000 per utility. So I can tell you your water would be a little bit less, your sewer would be a little bit more, mostly because the sewer will feature a detailed assessment of every single manhole in your system. Yes, ma'am.
No, he knew I was going to ask something. Did we not do something, did you all not do something for us similar to this about doing, maybe it was just pictures of lines or something, so we would have, maybe that was the development of the maps, a hard copy of them, but did we not just do something like, not like this, but
So you have a sanitary sewer evaluation study
okay,
from 2009. And a lot of the maps of your sewer system, were developed during that report.
Okay.
And we interface with those a lot. Your staff uses those a lot. I can tell you they're not survey grade mapping, so it's a lot of, and there's no blame assigned here. This is just the way this went back in that time. There's a lot of, we think this is where it is, we're pretty sure this is the way it flows, and you start to piece that together with the help of your staff to develop these maps. So this would be a much higher level of detail and functionality versus what you have. So here's the hard part. We do believe, and we've discussed this with your staff, I think that it's appropriate for us to provide you candid feedback and expectations. So the three capital projects that we just discussed, they're not strong, outstanding, high-scoring applications. For the three bullets I put on there, and these are at least two of the ones that you've heard before. One of the reasons that we know the state is encouraging these asset management plans is not only do they continue to fund them, but they also continue to raise the points you get in the applications every single year if you have one. So while this doesn't help you for this application cycle, if you get funded for those documents, and they take about 2 years to develop, once they're done, that'll be a significant shot in the arm relative to future application cycles. And you understand that your user rates are well below state average, and that, for better or for worse, that doesn't help the points on your application. Now, what does that mean relative to where you score in the scheme of things? So there are two pots of monies. The middle and the smaller of the two is your American Rescue Plan funds, and we talked earlier about the distress systems, the at-risk systems, and then everybody else, and you fit into everybody else. there's only $54 million in grant available for those folks. And they're only giving them out in no more than $5 million pieces. And the way it's been described to us and all of the folks like us who prepare these is they're going to go down the list with the top application scores and give no more than $5 million each until that $54 million is
It won't
exhausted.
take long.
So what that means is it's very unlikely that any of the three projects we just talked about will be up for grabs for that. The even worse news is there is a healthy amount of funds in the normal state revolving fund programs. And in those programs, contrary to the last couple of times, based on the current eligibility requirements, you do not qualify for grant for a couple of reasons, and I'll show you right here. You've seen something like this before. Does this mouse work? Can you all see that? Yeah. They determine your eligibility for grant based on two factors. One is what is your combined water sewer, if you're a combined utility, like your combined water sewer for 5,000 gallons. For you, that's about $48, and that goes on the y-axis. And then the x-axis is the cost of the project per month per customer. So this particular chart is for a $22 million Old Whitney raw water line, and they assume 0% interest, even though you won't get it. So take 22 divided by 20 for a 20-year term, divided by 12 months, divided by 7,642 water customers, plus or minus some, and that comes up to about $12. And that's that red dot you see on the screen. So that gives you probably a sobering feel for, based on this program, where you fit relative to their criteria and receiving grant. You would either have to have much higher rates or a much larger project, neither one of which at this point in time are appropriate. So again, I think it is important that we give you candid feedback and candid expectations. We do think that one or two of these might get funded. We do not think they will get funded with grant, except for the two planning grants. We think those will actually be pretty strong applications.
But hearing you, those two will help us with the other three.
Correct.
At the next time around.
And I'll give you a good perspective on what that means. The answer is yes. The fall, the applications that were submitted last fall, on the water side, the threshold between getting funding and not getting funding was 38 points. And, 38 out of 100, whatever that means. On the application, if you have that asset management plan, that's worth 10, right? So it's a lot. It's not 2 or 3. It's worth 10. So all of these projects are scoring, the three that we talked about, between 32 and 38 or so. I think the Highway 52 one scores the highest so far. And you can see if you had that asset management plan, the point getting power of that. So the action requested tonight, and forgive me for taking as long as I have, if it's your pleasure to consider, there are 5 resolutions before you, 3 for capital projects and 2 for the asset inventory and assessments. I did read in the agenda item that if you would like, you can approve all in one motion as long as they're listed. Again, of course, that's up to you. We're not asking, obviously, for a financial commitment right now. These are big numbers, right? Even if they were all funded, there's a lot more effort to be put into this before you decide if this is really something that you're going to take on. The funding announcements for these applications, they've actually shortened it this year. We expect to hear in July. Their criteria for funding, of course, applications are due May 2nd, and they have made it clear they expect to have everything released in July.
All of these funds are coming through the Clean Water Fund, even the ARP money, correct, or not?
So they are all being administered by the clean water and drinking water programs. Now, and this is in the weeds, they will tell you there is a difference between $1 that comes from clean water or drinking water and $1 that comes from ARP, and they're actually construction procurement differences. One has a certain set of documents, one has a different set of documents, but they're all being administered by the same programs, yes.
Well, I think the 200% are easy for us to decide. The other 3 are going to be very difficult for us to proceed with, knowing what we've got. But if we pass the resolutions, is that what you're recommending? Pass all the resolutions regardless?
Well, we had this conversation with your staff, and the reality is that if we and your team are going to prepare one application, there's really not a whole lot of more work for us to
Right.
prepare three.
Might as well do, yeah.
So that was why we are here before you with three. So you're not really committing to anything financially. What you are committing to is your staff is going to have, because there's some stuff that your finance department is going to have to develop that takes a little time and effort. But again, once you do it one time, it's the same for all three.
But this has to be in by May the 2nd, is that correct?
It does.
Yeah,
Yes.
so we got
So we got, I mean, if we're gonna do it, it's
You
gotta
can do it tonight if you're gonna do it.
right.
Your Honor, I'd
That's
place
correct.
on the table a motion to pass resolution 2112, 13, 22, not 21, that's right. Golly, there's a typo there, but resolutions 2212, 13, 14, 15, and 16.
Second,
Have a motion by Councilmember Hall, second by Councilmember Hughes. Now, question on Diener. How much of this money is coming through Diener?
All of it,
All of it's coming through?
all of it.
Okay.
Yeah, all of the federal funds, whether it's
Even the ARPA money,
state revolving fund or ARPA, was given to DEQ now, but yes.
right?
Is that where we think the infrastructure money later on is gonna come through?
We don't know yet. Everyone's been watching that really closely because the numbers are a lot bigger with that one. We don't know yet. As soon as we do, though, I can assure you we'll let you know.
Council will have a motion and a second on the table. Further discussion. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, motion carries.
Mayor, as always, thank you for your time. Hope
Thank
you guys have a
you.
great evening.
thank
Thank you, sir.
you.
Thank you.
I see him and I see Chris Bramlett.
Number 5, Joy Almond, Main Street Manager, update on potential downtown social district.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council, and I appreciate the opportunity to keep you updated as always. Social district implementation, I left flyers at everyone's stations that list the public input sessions that we have planned for Monday, April 25th. We have 2 sessions, one at 1 p.m. and one at 6 p.m., and also a Zoom option for those who can't join in person who can tune in virtually. We are hosting this in the Ray Allen Room, and I'm working in conjunction with Kevin Robinson in Planning and Development, as well as our police chief and fire chief, who will all be on hand at these sessions to address any questions that the public may have. Basically, the format is we are going to review the PowerPoint that I presented to you all back in February, just defining what social districts are, how they could potentially benefit downtown. Kevin has been nice enough to pull together a potential map of social district boundaries that we can present and get feedback on as well. And so my plan is to take the feedback from that public input session, follow up with a meeting with the staff that's involved that next week, to review those comments that we take in to put into consideration to finalize a proposed ordinance draft, a budget, a district map, and the days and weeks, the days of the week and times that we would enforce that district. So I am hoping to have all of that ready to you all by mid-May for consideration. If everything plays out the way that I would like for it to play out, should council approve the ordinance, we would then move forward with applying to the North Carolina ABC Commission. And once that is passed and we get the materials that would be needed, such as sidewalk signage, labels for the beverage holders at the establishments that would be participating, ideally, I would like to have it ready in September of this year if possible. We have a lot of outdoor events that will be going on. Pfeiffer will again be working with us on a homecoming event Friday, September 30th. That's just one of several outdoor events that I think would be enhanced by this social district, should you all consider moving forward with the ordinance. So that is the just overall broad view of how I plan to work with everyone to make this happen. So do you all have any questions for me?
I do, Joy. Real quick, do you know approximately how long it takes if the city, if we decide that we want to proceed with this, how long does it take? You mentioned getting some things from the state and things of that nature. How long does it take to get, you know, if we said midsummer, we're ready to roll this thing out, or in June, or whenever, however it takes, from the time we hit the go button, how soon could we get it implemented?
So I would say, and this would be a first time I would be applying for this type of application with the ABC Commission. With past applications I've done submitted for one-time permits, I give it at least 4 weeks.
Okay.
So I don't want to assume that would take the same for this type of application, but I would be glad to check. I'm wanting to reach out to, I know Kannapolis has a working social district. I've been out of medical leave up till recently, but I've been planning a trip. I'd like to go to Kannapolis and just see in practice how their social district works, and maybe get some of those questions answered from their experience of how it's working.
Well, I would love to say, I know there's 2 public input sessions on here, but do we have this on our city's website and social media pages about the social?
Yes, sir. We passed that along. Mr. Fath has done a great job of getting the word out. So we are getting that out to the public.
You know, when we had our meeting I guess it's been maybe a month and a half, 2 months ago, maybe a month and a half ago, when you first brought this to council. Later that same night, it was on WSOC TV. So it was like that night I got home, it was like on the 10 o'clock news. I'm like, holy, that was really quick. So I'd like to encourage anybody that's watching or listening to come out and give us input, because it's, I think it may be very impactful to our downtown district.
Joy, have you spoken to the businesses downtown? Have you been able to kind of reach out to those and find out what their feelings or thoughts are about this?
I have, and I've had some reach out to me.
Okay.
I had one business owner reach out and asked that they be included in the district.
Okay.
You know, I haven't had anyone strongly opposed to it that I've spoken with. Everyone I've spoken to seems to think it would be a way to enhance downtown and bring business, bring foot traffic to their doors. And I hope to get more of that input when we do this public input session on Monday.
Thank you, Joy.
Thank you, George.
Appreciate the update.
Number 6, update on traffic enforcement.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. We're here to speak about the traffic conditions that have, I guess, been a topic of conversations over the last few years. We've got a PowerPoint presentation that we're going to pull up here. Apologize, I didn't bring my reading glasses. It's nothing. Well, I believe we did drop off a copy to each of you. Do you have a copy?
Yeah.
of the PowerPoint
It's in our,
We'll proceed with that while we try to pull it up. So the first piece, when we look at traffic and issues with speeding and other driving behaviors, what's important is that we make sure we overlap that with the dangerousness of traffic itself. So we looked at the crashes that occurred over the last year, first quarter of 2022, overlap that with the heat map that you see there. And since Albemarle's a small circular area, the red zone shows the specific traffic patterns where most of the collisions are occurring. So with that, you know, the mapping itself and with the density, the color really doesn't show much of some significant.
now, Chief, we don't have a heat map on any of
You
this.
don't have that.
Yeah, it's in.
Oh, wait, is it?
It should be this right
Okay.
here. Yeah, that. So just looking at that red area, what's important that you look at through that, and I'll get down into where the collisions have been occurring. We did have 231 motor vehicle crashes so far this quarter. And that breaks down to 3 accidents a day, and that is pretty significant. So we are working with the prime areas where those crashes are occurring. Most of those happen to be in the area of the 24-27 bypass US 52, and Main Street in the northeast connectors. And that's where most of the crashes are occurring. And those bring us concerns because of the actual injuries and risk for death. So on top of that, with what we focused on and with what we've heard about other speeding complaints and other community issues with traffic, we have spoken internally about how we can impact that and affect and bring the change about in the crashes. We have had numerous checkpoints throughout the city over the last quarter. I believe we had 8, basically operator checkpoints, and we can actually focus where we hold those and try to impact either the accidents that we've received or the complaints on speeding violations and other traffic concerns. So with that, I've got Captain Laws here to speak, as well as Assistant Chief Cranford, to talk about some of the different patrol techniques we've deployed to affect the traffic concerns.
The next slide is on traffic stops. In the free time the officers have when they're not enforcing, I guess you could say, laws or answering calls, they try to enforce traffic and motor vehicle violations. In this quarter, there have been 37 speed-related citations issued. There's 103 driving license revoked charges issued. 157 people have been cited for no operator's license. There's been 11 people cited for careless and reckless driving. 11 people cited for driving while impaired, which includes an arrest. And then there's additional 627 charges. Correction, I'm sorry. There's 627 total charges of miscellaneous citations, including those listed above. And that, in a first quarter period, that's a significant amount of charges that we're trying to stop people from speeding and breaking the law, putting our best effort forth. We receive speed complaints numerous ways. It may be by flagging an officer down or by calling in to the police department. Some of those listed here on the slide you'll see are Anderson Road at Woodhurst Lane, Snuggs Road and Snuggs Park Road, Salisbury Road at Spruce Street, Salisbury Road at Snuggs Street, and Anderson Road at Sunview. As many of you know, familiar with that one, it gets brought up a lot because it's a 35 mile per hour zone. People speed through there quite a bit. Most of these locations we've deployed the speed trailer. Mm-hmm. Most of y'all seen it around town. It's got the flashing lights, tells you to slow down, tells you your speed. I find it effective. Assistant Chief Cranford downloads that data from that speed trailer. He can tell you a little more about as far as what it records and documents. He's much more knowledgeable than I am. However, I can tell you the officers are out enforcing. In addition to the speed trailer, they're actually in the areas doing their best to stop the speeders. Unfortunately, some of these locations, we discussed it earlier, it's very hard to sit there in a marked police car in some of them because they're really small streets. They're going to see you by the time they have a chance to speed up. You want to speak on some of this? All right. This is some data on the next slide you'll see from 2020 to 2021. As you can see, it's listing this is motor vehicle violations, if I remember correctly. There's 37 total, motor vehicle accidents. I'm sorry, citations. There was 37 total on Erie Avenue. There was 22 in 2020 and 15 in 2021. I know there's a lot of speeding complaints on Erie Avenue. There was actually 2 speeding tickets written in 2020 on Erie Avenue and 2 reckless driving and 18 miscellaneous violations. Y'all can see them. I'm not going to read every one. We'll be here all night. Just to list them, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Drive is a 25 mile per hour zone. There was 35 citations issued there. Again, that's a street that's very hard to patrol due to the traffic parked on the side of the roads and the way the traffic flows. Elizabeth Avenue, 3 total citations. Inger Street, 15 total. South Bell Avenue, numerous complaints come out of that neighborhood. There's 13 total, which is pretty good considering it's a very small street there. And then South Morrow, there's 5 total. Summit Avenue, 16 total. And then T.E. White, we get a lot of complaints. There was 15 total there. Next slide, speaking of motor vehicle collisions, and it's from 2020 to 2021. There's 65 total in the concerned areas that we're referring to. 10 on Area Avenue, 13 on MLK, 5 on Elizabeth, 1 on Inger, 14 on South Bell, which is quite a few collisions for that small street. South Morrow Avenue, 6, Summit Avenue, 12, and T.U. White, there was 4. This is 2023, 2020. All right. This next slide is from 2020 to 2021 also, and it lists the number of traffic stops in total, as well as it breaks it down into particular streets. I'm not going to bore you to death with numbers.
And is the reason, may I? Okay, is the reason that most of these that we're seeing right now brought to our attention because that's where we've had the complaints come from? I mean, it looks like that all of these are in that South Albemarle area.
That's correct, and that's where
These are the ones some of the ones I mentioned.
Okay, and that we had some
about
folks.
3 months ago.
Okay, very good.
With the exception of Gibson Street.
Gotcha,
I don't see
okay.
Gibson
Because
Street.
I just wanted to know that. That's because I know that we've had some other places where there's been speeding and the trailer's been up, but I don't see a lot of citations there. But these are ones that Mr. Townsend asked specifically about.
Yes.
Thank you.
when he explains the speed trailer in a minute, it'll kind of open your eyes a little bit on that. I'm not
Okay.
the one to explain that to you.
Okay.
unfortunately.
Okay,
So
thanks.
He'll break it down and I guess open your eyes a lot better than I can on that.
Okay,
Or at least, yeah, he said he'd try to. So, let's see. Traffic stops in total, it's also, it listed by the year of 2020. It goes down and shows you the traffic stops on there. Of course, y'all know that we don't have to write a ticket on every traffic stop. Officer discretion is used. So a lot of times warning tickets are issued and also verbal warnings. So they're listed on the next page as far as the written warnings, trying to give people a chance to fix it without sending them to the courthouse or something else. So, and I'll let Assistant Chief Cranford speak on this because he's much more knowledgeable than I am.
Good evening. The very last page on this is a data survey with an account of the locations that were in question. The City Council fitted a complaint about it. I want to say it was in 2020, 2021. Each of these has South Morrow, Summit, et cetera, down a list of these roads. The speed trailer, only current one we have, gathers data for vehicles traveling towards it. If you're going away from it, it does not pick up those vehicles. So the direction of the speed trailer facing is very important to how it gathers the data. This was some data we gathered back in 2020 over a course of a day or 2 days of data, could be 3 depending on the location. Percent of violations found, anything over the current posted speed limit is going to be considered a violation according to the trailer data. So if your speed limit is 25 miles an hour at 25.2, it's going to register it as a violation on these numbers. So the 4%, 12%, as you see those numbers down, that's anything over the entered speed limit on that particular highway or street. Anything over 15 miles an hour over, it categorizes it separately. And as you can see, a lot of those numbers are in the either 1% or below, depending on the number of vehicles that travel up and down that street during a particular day. If you have some of these data were 600 to 700 cars per day, and maybe you'd have 2 violators over 15 miles an hour over the speed limit. That's why that percent number is so low. And as you see on the far right side, the trailer also will calculate the total average speed of every vehicle that does travel down this road. And as you can look through South Morrow from Summit to Leonard to Groves and down, you'll see a 22, anywhere from 17 to 28 miles per hour is about the average speed on those listed roads in that chart. Turn it back over to you.
So basically, in closing, our goal is to have a direct impact on any concerns related with traffic in Albemarle. We have noticed that most of the more offensive driving behavior is coming out from the outside. We have a lot of visitors from the south side and west that come through, and a lot of our major attention has been brought on those. I don't want to pass the buck on to our neighbors, but we do have a lot of problems with outside visitors into the city. But, we're going to leverage technology and other resources as we move forward to focus back on patrol efforts, specifically for traffic and other crime factors at the patrol level. So, I wish we could put signs out that just simply stated, please drive like your kids live here. And people were responsible enough to appreciate that and actually do that. Unfortunately, how do you stop human behavior when it isn't what we expect? It's very difficult to do. But I do want you to know the men and women of the police department are out there patrolling and spending time where they need to spend time at. And as spring and summer hit us, we're going to be out there on foot, engaging with the community, speaking with them, talking with them, and listening to their problems, hopefully building better relationships so you're not bombarded with all those phone calls. They'll contact us directly if they have issues, on their street with any specific people that are either driving through their neighborhoods, consistently speeding, so we can target the people that are causing the problems and not just, spreading a wide blanket down over the entire area. Do you have any questions?
Yes. First of all, I appreciate everything that APD have been doing to try to curtail this traffic and speeding problem. These numbers are somewhat amazing. I had no idea that it was to that volume. But I do have one question. These numbers only reflect what Albemarle Police make when the Albemarle Police make stops, right? And I ask that because for some odd reason, and I don't know the reason, but over the last year and a half, I've seen practically the sheriff department making a significant, more increased traffic stops within the city limits. And I didn't know if those numbers were included in this data or what,
No, the numbers are all specific to APD.
Okay. And I don't know why I've been seeing an increase in patrol from the sheriff. Did they hire more deputies or what? Where they can patrol the streets here in city limits or what?
I have not seen as much lately as I did year and a half ago. But I used to see a lot more.
Just the observation.
So to educate, because what can the sheriff, can they do anything or stop anybody within the city if they deem?
Well, within the county, in Stanley County, it depends on what they see. They could have been following somebody outside the county coming into the city. If it's, there is the buffer zone within the city that they can enforce.
Okay.
Do you know specifically what that buffer zone is? How much they have?
They can force anything inside the city.
Yeah, because they're
In the
because
county,
they're
but
right
technically within the city, they're not gonna come into the city and try to police the city. But if they see traffic issues, they can address them.
Do we have a specific? I know there's been periods of time where we have dedicated like a traffic team. Do we have it? I don't think we have that specifically now. Is that correct?
We don't. As we present forward and go forward with the budget, you may see that. That
Okay.
is something we're trying to get.
Because I knew at some point in time, I think there was some grants, and there may not be anything right now or not, but I know at some point in time we've done that in the past. But I just want to say, like Councilmember Townsend said, thank you for all the men and women of the APD, everything that you do. I think this speed trailer is an excellent deterrent. I would encourage, and I know with answering calls and things of that nature, but after the speed trailer leaves a specific location, I know I wasn't aware until a couple of weeks ago that they'd actually changed the speed limit on Ridge Street all the way from Park Ridge to the connector to 35. And so you've got Lafayette Drive down there in the bottom the crest of that hill, and it's a very dangerous spot. So I know the speed trailer was out there, and hopefully we can get some more presence, some more enforcement out there, and stop some cars and write some tickets. And I'll say, I'm like the other council members. I've seen an increase over the last year or so from the sheriff's office, and I'm all the help we can get if they're riding down 52 or 2427 or Coble Avenue, and they see somebody speeding, and they've got the right to stop and write a ticket. And me personally, I can't speak for anybody else, but if it saves a life or slows somebody down, I appreciate anybody, highway patrol, sheriff's office, whoever it may be. So that's just
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, all lobby. And we would encourage you to go ahead and apply for a grant. I know it's too late this year for Governor's Highway Safety. We encourage you to go ahead and apply for another one next year.
Yeah,
we're
got-
looking for all means possible.
I got one more question.
Yes, sir.
Back on the collisions, average 3 a day, which sounds really high to me. Is there one or two intersections that accounts for the most of that? Could you identify a couple?
No, it's a lot of it's up and down the connector, then 24, 27, and on 52. We have seen, or I've seen a few crashes happening on the public road going into Walmart. We were talking about that earlier with the tractor trailers and the drop-offs out there with the actual trailers, creating a hazard on a tight turn area and blocking the view. But we've had some pretty bad accidents right along there.
Because this is all uploaded to DOT, right? They have all this data.
It is.
Okay, all right. Because I know RPO, we talk about the pot of safety money, so if there's an inordinate amount of accidents at one location, you know, they can take a look at it and see if there's anything they can do to mitigate that.
That pot of safety money to do that road, 24, 27 through there was what caused that.
Exactly.
It's helped significantly as far as the turn lanes and everybody not dark control, that's helped a lot.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Thank
Thank you so
you.
much.
Thank you.
Number 7, progress report on Albemarle Business Center. Mr. Ferris.
Thank you, Mayor. So as everyone knows, we're under contract for the construction of the Albemarle Business Center for certain elements, and then the city is overseeing, we're working with the contract on these elements, but also then overseeing other elements as part of our operations. So we're in the early stages, but the sewer outfalls have been cleared at 75%, and this was as of the first project status meeting with the contractor and engineer and some of our staff on April 6th. So we also saw about 25% of the roadway clearing complete at that time. Some erosion control measures at this point should have been installed. The utility subcontractor is hopeful for to start its installation of the water and sewer lines about any day now. There was the delivery of stormwater pipe and grading that's anticipated. I guess the understanding, the biggest complication right at this point has been the stormwater pipe. I guess because of the metal in it, there's some backlog, a national issue that's affecting this project. So they did order these when they were awarded the contract, and they anticipate those being in shortly, but that has been something that's been a bit unpredictable on their part. So essentially, it's the early phases of construction, which is clearing, grading, erosion control, stormwater pipe installation, and then we are also, since the electric plans are not a part of this, we're also working with Southeastern Electrical to hopefully have electric installation drawn for within the park. As you know, we've previously done the upgrades outside of the park on the U.S. Highway Business 52 side. We're going to do some work on the other side, Henson area, but within the park, those plans should be ready at any point. So that's the general status of the business center construction. It's early days and there's a long way to go, but that was the status of an April 6th meeting, and then we'll provide a report once a month on the status of the project.
Number 8, departmental monthly reports are in your agenda. Consent agenda, resolution 2210, the 2022 Regional Law Enforcement Mutual Aid Agreement, and number 10, proclamation National Day of Prayer.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Councilmember Aldridge,
Second.
second by Councilmember Hughes. Further discussion?
Just a question, and I just asked the chief and he made, whatever. This was a 21, it looked like to me. We've not been a part of this mutual aid for the last year. Is there any reason for that? Gotcha. Thank you.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Under new business, consider setting a public hearing date for annexation petition for 14.91 acres off of Moordine Road. Mr. Robinson?
Mayor, this is just to set the public hearing date for the petition at this time. Happy to discuss anything relevant to this case, but we'll have 2 more meetings for this still.
Before we set the public hearing, I went down Morgan Road the other day just to see if I could figure out, is this between
This is a donut hole right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's, there's, I think, a total of 22 acres out there. About inside the city is a little bit along Morgan Road, a little bit along 52.
Right.
And of course, we have Windsor Hills, and then we have the previously annexed Phase 1 of Morgan Hills
Right.
behind there. So this is 14 acres. It's kind of behind 52 and Morgan Hills right there. That's not annexed at this point.
I went out
This-
trying to look at it. Just,
This is the part that council was asking, so we would be able to line up the Henning Drive
right.
and then another access off of Morgan Road. This would give us that.
So staff's got some the initial information we've done in there. We haven't been able to fill in some of the utility stuff yet, but we'll get that to you. But we'll go into more detail on that at the next meeting, if it pleases council.
Council, if you're in agreement with pass resolution 2217
Set the public hearing,
to set the public hearing.
May 16th. So moved.
Motion by
Second.
Councilmember Hall, second by Councilmember Townsend. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Number 12, consider appointments to boards and commissions. Historic Resources Meeting, seat 7 is vacant. You have a application. And I will probably butcher that name. So I'm not even going to try. You see your the application in your agenda package.
Move we appoint Raisin for that particular seat.
Motion by
Second.
Councilmember Hall to appoint Raisin, second by Councilmember Whitley. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Number 13, consider appointments at Albemarle ABC Board. You have a request for a reappointment of Mr. Jeffrey Flake.
So moved.
Motion,
Oh, go ahead.
no, that's fine.
No,
Second.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Motion approved.
Motion by Councilmember Townsend to approve,
Second.
second by Councilmember Hall. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Coming around the table, Mr. Ferris,
I don't have anything.
Mr. Townsend,
No comments.
Ms. Hughes,
Saturday, bring your electrical items.
Oh, I have a laptop for somebody to
To-
take.
You're supposed to bring me yours.
I have
Chris.
I have
I'll
this in
bring
the
them.
car. I mean,
You
I'm not gonna be
do
able to
the,
Ross, how about coming up here and give us a quick update on that?
I hope they take a bunch of junk, 'cause I got a bunch of junk.
Martha, you going to be in town?
Yeah.
Okay.
Give us a quick update of what they can bring.
This is a county
Yeah.
sponsored event. We do partner with the county. It's just the annual Household Hazardous Waste Day. So it's really more household hazardous waste and electronics. And it's for county residents, which includes City of Albemarle. We encourage most people, we don't take hazardous waste at the landfill. So oil,
Paint?
chemicals, paint, those type things. That's what we look forward to people taking and dropping it off. But they will take electronics too.
And
And
it's-
there may be a paper shredding. I'm not 100%
And the
sure.
time
I don't-
again is
I can't remember.
I was thinking it would be
9
Me
to
off
1.
guard on that. It's
9
probably-
to
9 to
1?
1,
I
Okay.
think that was in Mr. Ferris's email.
9 to 1.
Yeah, boy, I probably put the time in there when I let y'all
I
know,
thought it
but
was
I
eight.
can't remember off the top of
it
my
was
head.
9
And I was
to
just
1.
looking at my schedule and I don't have a time on my calendar, so you gotta bear
It's
memory
got to be
than
out
I
there
do.
somewhere on social
Yeah.
media. Okay, thank you. All right, thank you, Ross. That's all I had to say.
Mr. Aldridge,
No, sir. Thank you.
Ms. Louder, Ms. Hall.
Does Kevin have somebody to introduce?
He will after we finish our round.
Oh, okay. I was just going to make sure he had an opportunity. I have nothing.
Okay, Mr. Whitman.
Well, I hate to say anything, because everybody else passed. Just want to let you, a brief update on the Catalyst Grant Program. I haven't talked with Keith lately, but I get copies of the cover sheets on the application. We have probably 5 or 6 applications so far. It's kind of a range of things. Have no idea how many of them are complete, because I just see the front sheet. There's going to be some confusion initially. I can see it. But hopefully I'll be talking with Keith, and the cutoff for this first round, we determined was going to be May 16th. So we'll get the committee together after that and look over them. And prior to that, hopefully Keith and Kevin and Joy will get together. The process is that once the application is submitted, there's a pre-meeting. They have to meet with those 3. and look at them to decide if they are in the MSD, if they qualify based on all the criteria, so that they can be submitted to the committee. So hopefully we'll proceed on that. But after May 16th, hopefully I'll have a lot more information on that program.
Thank you. Mr. Robinson?
Mayor, council, this is Travis Swain. I want to introduce him to you. He's our new senior planner. Travis has 3 years of experience in law enforcement and then a year of experience in social work. And then the last 4 years has been zoning officer at Davidson County. So he's got a good bit of experience. He's already pretty familiar. City and county is a little bit different, but he's pretty familiar with how everything works already, and we're happy to have him on the team.
Welcome.
Yep, welcome, thank you.
Glad to have you here.
Travis,
Glad to have you here.
And glad to have you here, so everybody knows you, since you're going to be doing presentations to us before.
That's right, that's right.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it. I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143, 318, 11A, 3, 5, and 6. Consult with the city attorney, real estate, and personnel.
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Aldridge,
Second.
second by Councilmember Hughes. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Motion by Councilmember Louder, second by Councilmember Hughes. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Got a few items we need to take action on. Number one, we approve a agreement with Carolina Treetops. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Hall, second by Councilmember Louder. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Number two, that we declare a public alley by prescription behind 115 West South Street, and the city will maintain it in the future, and we will remove underground tanks that are currently in the alleyway.
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Whitley.
Is that what we need, Bria? I was watching your eyes.
Okay. Have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Hall. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. I'll entertain a motion that we adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Aldridge.
Was that just two things?
That's all I.
Till next May.
Second by Councilmember Hughes. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
May.